I think we can be pretty brief with this game. I think there are sometimes when you play games and they meet your expectations or what you remember from them. There's sometimes that they exceed it. Like I had that experience with Arcane recently. I rewatched Arcane season 1 and I was like, it was better than I remember it being. I was like, damn, this is actually way better than my mind remembered it being. With Space Marine, I remember playing this game when it came out, being super hyped for it. I have the physical copy of it, and kind of a little bit like Dark Messiah. I think the game doesn't really live up to that, to like what my brain remembered it being. It feels old. The mechanics feel really old. It's pretty clunky, pretty generic. The story is kind of like a whatever burger, which I remember being back then too. I remember the big hype was just kind of like killing the orcs and being a space marine, and the game kind of lives up to that still. But it does have like a lot of archaic game design choices that I would argue probably were archaic back when it released even. Christoph right now, I think Christoph would probably agree with this. I think Space Marine 2 is probably going to be a way better version of this game. Just some generic stuff up the top of the dome. I think the overall like structure of the game is a little bit bland. Like the way the levels look are very bland, and it feels like it's very much made to be like a corridor shooter, right? You just go through corridors. Nothing feels like it's like a natural part of the environment. It all feels like it was purposefully designed, such as just go to like lead you through passages. Like, oh, there's a bridge that goes over to this platform. Then you have to walk up to there to go to that platform, so they can have like enemies show up at specific times. Which is something that I don't really like in games. It feels very poorly world built, I guess. I don't feel like the Space Marines are big enough. I feel like they should be way bigger. Which they're pretty big, but I feel like they don't have the same presence as a Space Marine should have. I feel like as a Space Marine, I should have insane presence. I should be like a god, but I'm not really. I don't really feel like a god in this. I think the big problem the game has, though, like the story is whatever, and that's kind of what you expect from a game like this. It's not necessarily meant to have like a crazy good story. I remember people liking the story a lot. I don't remember if that's accurate or not, but I think the story is just like a giant whatever burger. Doesn't really explain anything to you. There's no like, here's what Chaos Space Marines are, here's what you should care, here's what the warp is. It doesn't really go into any detail, which is okay for some stories, but it does feel a little bit like they're kind of just expecting you to understand or know things. What you playing next? Space Marine 2. We're jumping straight into Space Marine, but 2. None of the lore but the wagons you find in Impassable Mountain Passes, yes. But I think the gameplay is just kind of bad. And by bad I mean that, first of all, I kind of remember it being more carnage in this, but there's kind of less. Like when I think about like an orc wog, right? There should be like hundreds of orcs rushing towards me, but instead there's just like 5 of them, which doesn't feel super impressive. The combat is just right-click to hit things, left-click to shoot things. That's it. There's no parry system. There's a slight combo system where it's like if I right-click twice and then hit F, I do like a ground stomp or whatever. But for the most part, it's just super bland. And there's very few ways to mitigate damage, which means that even though you really want to be in melee, because melee is really cool in this, especially on the hard difficulty, you can't really be in melee, right? So it feels a little bit boring, I guess. Especially on this difficulty, there were a lot of like enemies sniping me from a distance, and there's no cover system, right? The game doesn't have like a Gears of War cover system where you like take cover and then you shoot around the cover. So you're just kind of like stuck, kind of standing there shooting them or trying to hide behind some object awkwardly while you're also being meleeed by people. With the range enemies kind of being a little bit too overpowered, maybe like 5.6 prediction. No, that's way too low. It's still a fun game. Like I said, fun with it. It's just nothing particularly special. I think the biggest problem this game has, though, there's two big problems. There's a little big problems. Weapon selection is okay, but ultimately the fact that you are limited to, you don't know when you'll get to choose new weapons, and sometimes some weapons are successful, sometimes they aren't. So you'll run to a place, oh, I can grab the melta gun here. And then you get to the next place, like, oh, I can't grab the sniper rifle anymore. Like the sniper rifle just isn't here. That's a little bit frustrating. It's like you should just have like a loadout system instead where you choose things rather than finding them. Especially when you're just like, I run out to an ammo depot, I'm like picking up ammo. I was like, oh, there's no ammo for my sniper rifle here, but there's ammo for this weapon. But why not just have this be an ammo depot? Sometimes you pick up a weapon by accident. That's frustrating. The jetpack is really, really cool, but it's only available in some areas, which feels like a big mistake. Like, just give me the jetpack the entire goddamn game. That's like the most fun part of the game. Having the jetpack, the game is like... With the jetpack, the game is like it's like an 8.5. Without it, it's, you know, whatever. But I think a real big problem the game has is that you have your Space Marine meter. I forget the name of it, right? The Space Marine meter, and when you use it, you become giga powerful. You do more damage when you hit, time slows down when you aim, and you regen health over time. That doesn't feel powerful enough in this, which is kind of a problem. It feels like it should be like an I win button, right? Like, I'm surrounded by enemies, I'm going to push my I win button and just kill everyone. But instead you just die. And it's just like, oh, okay. I used my I win button and I just died anyway. Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what there is to say about this game. That's it. Here, let's I even have Spaceman on this list. Space Marine. I have two. And we don't even have it on the list. Alright, let's just did I insert below? No. I think I copy paste. There we go. Oops. If you copy paste, it gets added to the filter automatically. Warhammer 40k Space Marine. It's in Among Us now. Why would I want to play an assassin game, Serp? You know that's not a game that people use to train themselves to be assassins, right? Streamed, yep. Released, multiplayer, nope. This is not multiplayer, I don't think, right? I think I just added it because of the thing. That's why it's multiplayer. You guys realize that Among Us is a game that assassins use to train, right? You guys realize that's an assassin game? Time to beat Space Marine. Oh, yeah, I should probably say the enemies doing this aren't like anything super interesting. Among Us was how I was drafted into the KGB Assassins game, yeah. 7.5 and 22.5. How do you spend 22.5 hours on this game? Yeah, I was gonna say enemies in this are also like nothing that interesting. They're just kind of like the same versions of the enemies, but just quoted differently. Like, oh, instead of an orc warrior, it's a chaos warrior. Okay, cool. And they don't really like interact in any cool way. They don't feel particularly special. The boss fights are whatever. Oh, I was gonna say too that ending segment felt weird, where it's just like oh, here's the last boss. It's a wave defense, and then you just run up, and then you do some quick time events to kill the boss. Almost feels like that was like the idea for the game. They were like, what if you had this cool thing happen? And then it was like they built the game backwards from that point, and then never had anything like that happen ever again. It's one of those big gripes to have in video games. It's like I feel like with video games you should do two things. Either you should be consistent or you should be inconsistent. If you're consistent, the entire game should be the same thing basically, right? You introduce mechanics slowly, and then you have those mechanics be relevant throughout the game, or you should have the game be like completely random with mechanics. Like suddenly there's a push mechanic, suddenly there's a climb mechanic, suddenly there's a jump mechanic, just like stuff like that. And this is just like the game is the exact same up to the end, and then suddenly we have like a quick time event boss fight for some reason. Just felt a little bit strange, I guess. Alright, how much time did it spend? Buggies. Space Marine 7.8. That's with me rambling too, so we're almost average. Okay. Here's our score. 10 flawless masterpiece, 9 never should play this. 8 good experience worth playing. 7 good, play if it sounds fun. 6 alright, play if you like the genre. 5 average, 1 to 4 avoid at all costs. Almost average is my life motto. I think the game is going to the 6s for sure. Like, definitely a game that is like if you like hack and slash shooters, if you like Warhammer, nothing wrong with playing this game. I'm hoping Space Marine 2 is just going to be this, but better, because this is the one thing that I really like about this game, which I forgot to say for some reason, is the pacing is actually kind of good. It feels weird that it's just like, oh, there's a huge thing happening on this planet. There's just 3 Space Marines available, whatever. But it is cool that it is cool that the idea of the game is that this planet is under attack and you're just never stopping. There's no time for rest. You just keep moving all the time in the game. There's no point in the game where it's just like, hey, let's take a breather and talk about things. You keep moving forwards. That's really cool. I do really like that. And Titus is a good character. So the question for this is just like how deep into the sixes do we put this? Definitely not high sixes for sure. Just because it's so generic, like the combat is so generic in it just feels super bland. I'd probably put it at like a, probably put it like a 6.4, just like slightly below average sixes. And we're hoping Space Marine is like an 8.1 or something. Space Marine 2. Oh, we gotta do critic rating. I forgot about that. Critic rating is a 7.6. We were pretty on point. Okay. Here's the dealio, everyone. I'm gonna grab my food, then we're gonna do some reacting. And when we're done reacting, disgusting, we will play Space Marine 2.